Good evening and welcome to Ridgecrest Talk here on KZGN-TV, your local TV station. I'm Al Huey along with my partner, Robert Eierman, and our special guest tonight is Council Member Jim Sanders. He's been with us before. Jim, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
Welcome back.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So, some exciting things going on in the city.
Exciting is a good way of saying it, yes.
Both
One good and bad. Yeah.
The not so exciting, well, it's exciting, but not in an exciting good way.
And in a positive sense.
Yeah, was at the city council meeting earlier this month, the first meeting this month, the 5th, in closing comments period towards the end of the meeting, city manager informed the council that there's a little shortfall in the budget.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was he told you it was $529,000.
Yeah.
$592,000, I thought.
Oh,
it was.
92. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's close to
500
600.
Yeah, 592. And then recent stories have come out that it's over 600,000 after that, and now we hear it's approaching 742,000.
Yeah. And I don't know where those I know where the original 592 came from, because they had already subtracted off the 150,000 for the
employee
financial system.
Yeah.
And so it was originally the 700 and what was it? I don't know exactly the number off the top of my head, but it was originally that number. I don't know where the 600,000 number came from. But we weren't discovering more debt or more deficit as we went along. It was
So
all
it's
one
still
discovery.
592 as far as you're concerned?
If you already subtract off the 150,000, yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's how they came up with that original number. Yeah.
And the 150 is the
They just kind of took for granted that we would go ahead and subtract off the new financial system for this year. I think they just kind of took that for granted. They said, well, we better back up and not do that and let the council decide is kind of what.
the new financial system. You mean the new computer system for doing the budget?
Yeah, it's a software system.
Oh, okay,
basically,
okay.
yeah. So.
And then it was quoted in some local newspapers that, well, let me back up. You were presented the budget last month before Miss McQuiston departed.
Correct.
That was one of the last jobs she did before she left.
Yeah.
Was present the budget. And then it was reported that she told Tolly is his name?
Ty? Staley?
Ty.
Yep.
Staley?
I'm sorry.
Is it
Forgive me,
Staley?
Ty.
Oh boy, I've always said it's Staley. I don't know
Okay.
if I'm saying that wrong.
Staley, we'll
but
take it from you.
Okay.
Yeah, don't take my word for that. I don't know.
Her departing words to him was, "You better check the numbers."
Yeah. Okay, I didn't. Yeah.
That's kind of frightening.
Well, yeah, and it came as a big shock to us. You know, I'd gotten to that council meeting early, and I talked to Dennis, and so I found out a little bit before the council meeting, but I mean, the news was news for me, just like the rest of the council at the time.
And then it was also reported that she didn't like the system that the city had for doing the budget.
Yeah.
She used a spreadsheet.
An
So-
Excel
A
spreadsheet.
spreadsheet.
Yeah, so let me give you a little bit of background on the system we do have.
Okay.
Okay.
It's really old. It's a very, very old system. I've talked with Ty, and he's given me a lot of background on that. He used to be here
Yes.
before.
Right.
You guys know that. I
Right,
don't know
yeah.
if everyone would know that. And so he was used to working with the system, and to get the good, to get all the information in the reports you need, you pretty much have to kind of modify and manipulate the code itself in order to produce a report. Very cumbersome. I mean, you really have to know the details and get into it. High learning curve, basically.
Gotcha.
So,
And so all of his experience, he has that knowledge.
Yeah.
And so when Ms. McQuiston came in, it would be a very steep learning curve for her
Yeah.
to get on board with that. And yet at the same time, she was being asked to produce numbers and monitor the
Right.
spending and the income and et cetera.
But
And-
if you're going to hire someone, wouldn't you? One of the questions, are you familiar with the system? that we use?
Would
you bring somebody in that wasn't familiar with that?
Okay, I don't disagree with you, but that's kind of like in today's world asking somebody if they're familiar with DOS.
Right.
I mean, everybody's going to say no, because it's so old and antiquated.
Right.
That no, you're not going to find anybody that is familiar. So I appreciate your thought, but I don't know if it would be a practical thing.
And the plan was from year one, when McQuiston came on board, that we would get a new financial system. I mean, that was one of the first things she just suggested, one of the first things we agreed to. And then we got hit with, the counties pulling back some of the tax revenue.
Yes.
That we didn't know about. And the new accounting system just kept getting pushed down and down and down. And so she just made do with what she had, because it wasn't going to be worth learning a whole new antiquated system for only 1 year,
right?
Only to learn a new one.
And if it was the city's intention to replace it, I could understand that she would say, no, I won't bother learning it. I'm not saying that turned out to be the correct choice, but it seems like a reasonable choice at the time.
It made a lot of sense. That's right. So
I don't know.
Spreadsheets. Spreadsheets, and
it kind of reminds me, we got a similar situation with former State Department official that had their own email server instead of using the one that was authorized.
I see your
all
point.
The spreadsheets have been turned in, though. That's the difference.
Your point.
She relinquished all the spreadsheets before she left.
I don't know.
And they weren't classified spreadsheets.
I don't know. But it could have been removed,
I do see your point, Al. I mean, I think that this is one of those situations that truly was a comedy of errors or omissions or oversights or circumstances, however you want to put it. I mean, and then human nature is no matter how wonderful we think we are, when we're moving on in life to something that we're looking forward to, our mind may not be as well focused as on our current job as maybe it should be.
Yeah, I think there might have been some of that. I really couldn't say.
I'm not saying that there was. I'm just saying.
Let's talk about that in another few seconds, because unfortunately we got to pay the bills here. We're going to take our break. We'll be back after the break with more discussions with Councilmember Jim Sanders. Join us.
And welcome back to Ridgecrest Talk here on KZGN. I'm Robert Eierman, along with my partner Al Huey. And this evening, our special guest is Councilman Jim Sanders. And before we went to break, we had a discussion on the fact that when somebody's leaving a current position and going to a new position, no matter how hard we try.
I understand the human nature part of it.
Yeah, we may not be as focused as we would like to be or should be or whatever. I'm not saying that that's acceptable. I'm saying that is human nature.
I don't know. I really feel for the council and for the whole city, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not like we have a lot of money here to fund everything in this city. We're very, very limited on the funds that we can get. And
it was very, very disheartening. I mean, from
somebody should have checked the numbers besides the new incoming finance director or head or whatever position Mr. Ostali is feeling right now.
Yeah,
it's like even with her saying, Miss McQuiston saying, you might want to check those numbers as she's heading out the door. And I can understand the human nature part of it. Mm-hmm. So she didn't feel comfortable with it. Somebody before the council voted to spend this money here and there and now find out, like we're going to have to make more cuts.
Yeah.
And we've already made these cuts, I don't know how many times before.
Yep.
I mean, we're down to a skeleton city as it is. how much more can we cut?
Right. Well, and you know, we talk about human nature, but there's also, you know, just the nature of doing things in spreadsheets. I mean, I work with spreadsheets all the time at work, and it's really easy to lose track of stuff in spreadsheets, especially when they're changing all the time, going through several revisions, and so I could easily see that as a big source of the problem as well. So, but it was very disheartening. I mean, you know, from day one, when I was elected in 2012, we were faced with budget cuts. So the very first meeting.
Yep, I remember that.
There has never been an easy discussion on, or a pleasant discussion on the budget since I started, and to have that pop up as well, it was just like, can you kick us when we're any lower? You know? I mean,
right.
It's very, very difficult. But you know, fortunately, the staff's found some good solutions, I think. And there are temporary solutions, but we aren't going to have the loss of revenue from the county next year. This is the last year we're paying off that last portion of it, so that'll help. And you know, we're just going to have to take it year by year.
Now the police department was going to be they are the biggest hit of the cuts. I think 300,000. They were asking.
Well,
yeah, I mean, every department took a equal percentage cut, and they're the biggest department, so they take the biggest cut. Yeah.
So that would say that they're roughly a 50% expenditure of the budget, right? 300,000, 600,000.
I think they're approaching 70%.
Yeah, I thought it was much higher than that.
The more we've cut over the years, the larger their percentage stays, because we've been trying as hard as we can to keep them whole. Now the math worked out such that we subtracted off their percentage based on the pre-Measure L allocation, right?
Okay.
So we did not take. They received a certain portion of Measure L funds that was not accounted for in the percentage of their reduction. So their percent of the budget was a little smaller in terms of their total budget.
Okay.
And that's how that there was some confusion based on that, but. We felt like, I think that was the right thing to do. I think staff felt like that was the right thing to do.
For the benefit of our audience, where did they find that $300,000 so that the police department didn't have to suffer that cut?
Well, this is very reminiscent of past cuts that we've had to make, you know, where we've been choosing between police department and other cuts. We chose to take that $300,000 from the Measure L carryover from last year. So the money that wasn't spent on Measure L from streets last year, we're reallocating that towards police department, which still fits within the Measure L purpose. And then what we're doing to make streets whole is we're going to, and this will be on a coming agenda, is we're going to cut some funds from allocated tab funds for other things other than street programs and reallocate that towards streets again.
Okay.
So that way we can still keep, you know, the current street schedule that we have planned, and still keep maintaining the streets and rebuilding streets. But another less necessary program for Measure L allocation is going to go, is what that means.
Okay. And I agree with you that whether it be streets or whether it be public safety, that certainly falls within the guidance of Measure L.
Yeah.
I think, however, there's a difference between the actual and the public perception. I think if we went out and did a
man on the street
interview, can't do that anymore. Did you hear about what happened in Virginia? Anyway, a reporter and cameraman were murdered this morning.
Wow, this morning. Oh,
yes.
My goodness.
But anyway,
doing it on live TV.
Yeah, it was live when it happened.
Wow.
So anyway,
I heard we're still going to do them, but now we have to wear
bulletproof vests.
Bulletproof vests.
Oh,
so if we did that, I think that a huge percentage of people would think that the money was going to go to streets.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And the reason that I bring that up is because we're getting, in the not too distant future, we're going to probably see a renewal attempt for Measure L. And I think that you as a councilman person should be aware of that and advise the council that we need to think about that and what impact that has. You know, because, you know, if you say, and if I asked you, what's the magic number of police? And the answer to that, in my opinion, always is there's never enough. If we have 30, we could use 50. If we had 50, we could use 75. If we, you know.
Right.
So my point of that is, it's always, public safety is always going to want to suck up a lot of money. That's my point. How long do we have?
10
Okay,
seconds. You're going to take us out, I guess.
Yes. So please join us after the break. We'll be back and continue this conversation with Councilman Jim Sanders.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, exactly. And welcome back to our final segment this evening here on Ridgecrest Talk, KZGN-TV, your local TV station. We're here tonight with Councilman Jim Sanders, and we were having a rousing discussion when we had to go away, having to do with there's never enough police,
Right.
and I don't think you could ever get to that point. It's like classroom size reduction, you know. You can go right down to, you know, 15, 10, 1-to-1, 5 teachers per student. I mean, you could always make the argument that we need to have more teachers, less students.
And we see how that
we're not doing that. We're not increasing police officers. We're just trying to keep them where they're at.
You know,
And
I'm understanding. I was
Yeah.
just trying to make that point.
No, that's true.
And
The more
it's
the
kind
better.
of like if someone is going to argue against having 32 police officers. I mean, they're probably Satan or Hitler or Mussolini or something like that.
Right.
So it's not something that's easy to debate about.
Right.
Whether you do a good job with 32 officers, or you could do as good a job with 28 officers, or as good
Right.
a job with 26 officers. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
not an expert. I'm just saying it's a very difficult thing to
and during
discuss.
the first round of budget cuts when I first got on council, that's one thing I took a hard look at is exactly how many police officers do we need, and that's very subjective, right? I mean, what's the bare minimum we can have? So I went back to the police told me about this FBI study that was done, and again the numbers range all over the place, but on the West Coast they recommend, you know, a certain number of police officers per capita of
Okay.
your population. I couldn't tell you those numbers off the top of my head, but I remember doing those calculations, and we were at the bare minimum of their recommendation.
All right.
They gave us a range. The range would have gone up from like 30 to 50, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And so, just based on that, and based on, you know, where our crime is at in the city and how crime has been increasing, I didn't feel comfortable at all letting go of any police officers or
I don't blame you. I mean,
I don't blame you.
I wasn't arguing.
And the
to
state
reduce it.
certainly
I'm
hasn't
saying-
helped with releasing
Oh, the state's
Yes.
been horrible.
prisoners
Yeah.
from
States is
prison.
No, it's been
And
horrible. It's been a nightmare for the police department what the state's been doing.
Mhm.
AB 109 and the
And
prison
now let's see.
relocation.
We can talk about. We got to have the police giving tickets for excess watering. In a short while, we'll have the police monitoring the number of chickens in yards. I'm being facetious. You get my drift.
You're opening up a can, is what you're. We'll talk for hours on those topics.
Yes.
Yeah.
okay, so is the council decided to put out a bid for a new finance director, or where are we at on that?
This system or.
No, the director of finance. Stolly's, I thought was temporary, interim.
Oh, My understanding that it was a permanent position, but
Oh.
I'll double check on that. I might be mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll check on that. I thought
Okay.
it was
'Cause
permanent.
I thought he was an interim until the city put out a bid, or they decided to.
and one thing McQuiston did is she gave us enough time to really, you know, interview a lot of people. We
Mhm.
put out, you know, I don't remember what exactly the term is, but the announcement saying, hey, we're hiring.
But then
They went through a whole hiring process.
Councilmember Maurer heard during these budget deficits said one of the things not to fill any vacant positions.
Oh, that's one we would not be able to go
You
without
need to
filling.
not fill that.
Really?
It
we
needs to
would
filled.
be in a lot of trouble without
Yeah.
filling that. So, yeah.
At that, can I change horses here just a little bit? At that same council meeting that this announcement was made, we were discussing, or had the opportunity to discuss with the council, the League of California Cities request to have a letter of support for the infrastructure. I can't talk like it, so I'm trying to continuous, reliable funding for infrastructure,
Roads
for
and bridges, primarily.
I love how I got to give them credit for so cleverly masking tax increase.
Yeah.
But and
We ought to save that for another show, though, because
oh, okay. Well,
we don't have a lot of time left
Yeah,
to
that-
really get
good-
into
good
it like
point.
we should and
yeah,
devote the.
good point. Go ahead.
So, as far as you know, you think Mr. Stolley is going to be filling the position of the director of finance.
As far as I
and
know, yeah.
the new system, are we going to get it this next
Not
budget?
this year. I mean, the idea is we'll try again for next year. But the good thing about Ty being there is that he knows the system and he can work with the system, and that's how we found the budget shortfall to begin with.
Right.
Because he imported all that information into the financial system, and you know, did the reports and found it. So I think we're in okay shape for this year as long as revenue doesn't drop below what we expect. That would be the one thing that would really hurt us the most.
So, as the council, I'm not completely up to date on it, so that's why I'm asking.
Sure.
Did the council decide exactly what they're going to cut, or is it still on the table to look at?
No, we made cuts and we
Okay.
approved the cuts. Yeah. So we're still going to look at the reallocation of tab funds at a future council date. I think it's going to be the next one, but I'm not totally sure
Did
yet.
we lose any employees?
No. We dropped some contracts. We eliminated a lot of maintenance costs that we were going to have, or I guess deferred the maintenance costs that we were going to have, because we're still going to have to pay for those. But we're able to make it without payment, without losing people. So,
Terrible thing.
it is.
Yeah, it really is. It was a real punch to the gut.
If I were sitting on the council, it would have been like somebody just.
Yeah,
Oh.
Absolutely.
It got me down. Yeah, it
Yeah,
got me down for several days.
It's understandable.
So,
It's hard enough to have a balanced budget in this city without that then hitting you.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a surprise to everybody, and I'm glad that you guys have restructured things so that it's going to be as painless as possible.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's going to do us for this session of Ridgecrest Talk. We're going to have you back and talk
Yeah.
about some other stuff, okay?
That'd be great. I'd love
All
that.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Join us next week when our guest may be Councilmember Jim Sanders. I don't know. All right. Thanks for joining us tonight, folks. Have a great evening, and God bless.